explain their role in the execution of a sitting Prime Minister.
I believe that there will be some of my friends in the movement who will never talk to me again. I believe that there will be some people in the community who will be unhappy with me.
And anyone who thinks this is easy should study the agony etched on the face of the Finance Minister.
Well, Finance Minister Penny Wong was a staunch Gillard loyalist.
But Penny Wong weighed personal loyalty against her loyalty to a party she feared was about to be extinguished.
So yesterday I made the personal decision that I could no longer support Prime Minister Gillard. I met with her to advise her of that fact, and it was the most difficult decision of my political life. But ultimately I believed I had to do what I thought was in the best interest of the Labor Party, and through that the best interest of the nation.
Gary Gray led the public charge against the return of Kevin Rudd. He offered his resignation and it was declined.
I think the political distress felt by caucus members at the political state of the government, and it's clearly the case that the overwhelming view of caucus members was for a change. That was not my view.
A new Prime Minister was sworn in.
I've done this wrongly before.
Kevin Rudd met his next opponent on the floor of the House.
The Prime Minister has the call.
Presented his credentials to Parliament and made an appeal which rang hollow in the wake of the brutality of the night before.
We all have families and we all have emotions. So let us try, just try, to be a little kinder and gentler with each other in the further deliberations of this Parliament. I thank the House.
The opposition leader's congratulations were a cursory nod on the way to his main point.
And he would best elevate that office by explaining the events of last night and by telling the Australian people when will they get the chance to decide who the Prime Minister of this country should be.
Julia Gillard set the election date for September 14, but Kevin Rudd's being advised both to pull it forward and push it back. So now it is, once again, a movable feast.
And the Leader of the Opposition can rest assured there's going to be an election. It will be held consistent with the Constitution, and if he's looked at the dates, there's not going to be a huge variation one way or the other.
The opposition front bench spent question time asking the Prime Minister to explain the dispatch of Julia Gillard and working its way through their checklist of his failings.
If the member for Lawler couldn't trust the Prime Minister, why should the Australian people believe any promise he makes between now and the election?
I remind him of his promises to take, and I quote, a very hard line on people smuggling, to fix public hospitals or take them over, to run surpluses over the economic cycle and to reduce the cost of living through Fuel Watch and Grocery Watch, all of which promises he subsequently broke or dumped.
And the Prime Minister warmed to his unity theme.
And this is either the fourth or fifth question in question time, and not a single question on policy. And when I say to those opposite, once again we see on parade the old politics whereby we scream at each other, we don't work with each other, we try and scare people rather than make them think, and then on top of that we engage in politics which divides ordinary Australians rather than unites them.
Tellingly, one of the strongest bonds in this Parliament has been between the country independents and the former Prime Minister. In his valedictory, Rob Oakeshott told of a message he sent Julia Gillard just before last night's caucus ballot.
I sent the Prime Minister a text, and it was to say her father would be proud of her.
It was a day of goodbyes as the Defence Minister revealed he would also be departing the field.
This is something that I cannot, in all good conscience, say to the people of Perth that I can continue to do, win, lose or draw at the next election, for another 3 years. 20 years I can do, 23 years I can't.
Also moving on is one of the Parliament's most famous faces.
I came into this place previously as a front man to become a team player.
But the former Prime Minister, who's forged the alliances that held this Parliament together, listened to others and said nothing herself. It was left to the Leader of the House to bring down the curtain on the chamber.
Whatever the statements that people have made about this Parliament, it has functioned effectively, and I thank all members of the House, particularly the members of the government, but also the Manager of Opposition Business for his courtesy and the way that he has conducted himself with myself in managing the business of this House. I want to also single out the constructive way in which the crossbenchers have played a role in this Parliament.
And so ends the 43rd Parliament, and with it the political career of Australia's first female Prime Minister. She has much to be proud of and a lot to regret. Everyone will remember the hung Parliament, and few will mourn its passing.